grief, and how can I Help other people who are also struggling with this, because I believe there are thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people around the world who find themselves in the position that I do now, where once they were very devout believers in a faith, whatever their faith was, uh, and now they are not.
Right. And you said something interesting in our previous conversation that nobody else got to hear, but one of the things that struck me that you said initially is that, or what I took from it, I should say, is that it's sort of a mourning process of the person that you may have been had you not been constricted and confined by what you come to realize for yourself were false beliefs and constraining forces in your life. And you referenced that it was very similar to, you know, people who are adoption. It's not a socially recognized form of grief or mourning. Did you mind kind of reiterating that now that people can hear what you
Sure.
say?
Yes,
Thanks.
of course. What I learned through my own process of deconversion, um, but also what seems to be quite a similar experience for many people, is that there are different types of grief related to losing your faith. One type is ambiguous loss, where there's no closure. So, say if someone is killed in a plane crash or a bomb or something terrible like that, and there's no body, that's ambiguous loss. And so that's something that I had to deal with, because suddenly I didn't have my faith. There was
Right.
nothing really to bury, but I didn't have my faith anymore. And another type is disenfranchised grief, and this is the one you just mentioned.
Right.
It's losses that are not openly acknowledged or socially sanctioned. And so for me, uh, society at large would look at me and say, well, so what? You stopped believing in Santa Claus.
Right.
It's no big deal. I wasn't permitted to mourn, even though my life had descended into total chaos. Um, and for folks who are adopted, society doesn't really like them to grieve either. They are supposed to only be so grateful for the family that took them in. They're not allowed to stop and grieve the identity that they've lost. And for me, it very much was a loss of identity when I lost my faith. And the last way that grief really impacts us is unresolved grief. It's cumulative in nature, it's unfinished business. And so it's kind of when grief upon grief upon grief, because when you lose your faith, there are multiple losses. There's loss of community, loss of identity, loss of purpose. It can be a terrifying time.
Yeah. People that I've spoken to that have had experiences that, you know, from in my layman's perspective, seem as though they may have some overlap or lead towards having some sort of religious trauma, often express to me that they feel as though they have to relearn who they are and how to live life from scratch. And there's vestiges of religious thinking that they don't even realize were were forms of religious thinking, because you're so invested in it, and it's such an entrenched part of who you are and how you
Yeah.
perceive the world that
Mhm.
you don't even comprehend what components of your perceptual cognition and how you assimilate information
So true.
are embedded
Mhm.
in that structure
Yeah.
that's imposed upon you.
Yeah. It's like a fish not recognizing that it's in water.
Right.
It's just going about its business being a fish. And certainly being raised from infancy in this belief system, and then attending church, and then only Christian friends. Like it is a real echo chamber,
Mhm.
and it seems very normal if that's all the people you associate with. And my identity did not have a chance to develop outside of religion and the religious beliefs that were essentially forced on me. I mean, my parents thought they were doing the right thing, of course. Um, but so, for example, conflict can certainly be